Hey there, this is Aluna Michaels, Esoteric Astrologer, coming at you to talk about the events of May 2018. Got a kitty cat walking in here, sorry, he might be meowing a little bit. Yeah, he is so excited about Uranus moving into Taurus, he had to come and tell you about it, which we'll be talking about this month. That's the big news, is the Uranus moving into Taurus. But other things to talk about as well. So let's see, where will I start? Let's talk about more of a minor thing. So Mercury, which actually is going past its station retrograde point, so that means that Mercury went direct in the middle of April. But when it went retrograde in March, it was at 16 degrees of Aries. So it went backwards till 4 degrees of Aries, and now it's going forward again since then. And when it's going to hit 16 degrees of Aries today, tomorrow, I'm doing this on the 2nd. So the 2nd, 3rd, Mercury will finally pass by where it stopped before. So it's like fresh energy, fresh mental energy, you know? So that's always good when Mercury really clears itself out. Now, what's going to happen is, as Mercury moves forward into Taurus, and it goes into Taurus on the 13th, the planet Mars is going, so Mercury's going from Aries to Taurus, and Mars is going from Capricorn to Aquarius. And they square each other. So the Aries and Capricorn square, and the Taurus and Aquarius square. So there's a number of days where Mars and Uranus are kind of tracking along together in this challenging angle. So, and that would be, let's see, because Uranus, I'm so excited about Uranus, okay, that Mars goes into Aquarius on the 15th, so they're both really tracking very closely between like the 11th of May and the 15th of May. And Mars can be irritable and angry, and Mercury's communication, you know, so people can be very irritable during this time. And we can't forget about that, leave out Uranus. So let's just talk about Uranus too, because Uranus has an 84-year orbit, and it changes signs once every 7 years. And it's moving into Taurus on the 15th, Uranus into Taurus. Actually, I didn't write it down. Like around the 17th. But so Uranus is also really excitable. So you've got actually Mercury and Uranus, which can be great, like breakthrough ideas and stuff. But when you put the Mars there, it can be a crash, you know. People can be more frustrated about their own point they want to get across, because Uranus can be that commitment to your own ideas when it's linking with Mercury like that. And so it's a little bit of a bumpy ride as Uranus moves into Taurus. So all three, you know, it's like Mercury and Uranus are very close together. I was writing from the 11th to the 16th. Mercury and Mars from the 11th to the 15th. Mars and Uranus then doing their own square between the 9th and the 22nd. So kind of, you know, the 2nd and 3rd weeks of May, it's a little wild. So, but one of the great things is its breakthroughs of ideas. I mean, anytime Uranus changes signs after 7 years, and granted, it is going to pop back into Aries a little later this year for a little wrap-up, but just going into Taurus, like, hey, you know, I haven't been there for 84 years, and Uranus is so much about the expanded mind about that sign, Taurus, you know, so it's a big breakthrough for everybody. But it can also be a little jarring for some people who don't like change, or who are anxious about what's going on in their lives or whatever. So when you put those smaller planets, Mercury, the thinking, and Mars is the general sense of energy and tension, it just can be people being pretty stuck in their ideas and not wanting to change their ideas. So be really gentle with people who are struggling to just open their minds to new ways of seeing you, if it's in a relationship or work situations, especially with Mars being involved, and even gentle with yourself. Like if you're working on major breakthroughs, like they're coming, you know, like with Uranus moving into a new sign, because Uranus actually represents the higher mind. It's like Mercury's our day-to-day mind, and Uranus is like the genius mind, or this sort of quantum mind. So everyone's going to be having these breakthroughs, and you will have this breakthrough coming with different, whatever you're working But because of that Mercury, Mars, it can feel like, oh, I'm not doing good enough and I got to try harder and push harder. Instead of the energy of Taurus itself is the inevitability of growth. It might be slow growth, but kind of like if you plant the garden, and say you plant zucchini or something, you're like, I want that zucchini now. And it's just, you have to wait for it to germinate and come up through the ground and grow and ripen before you can have it, So there's this idea that the changes you are making are going to give you these radical shifts of awareness and consciousness and inspiration and stuff. But this month you could feel a little bit hard on yourself and pushing it or giving up, and it's like, just hang in there. And if you do need to reinvigorate yourself, it's a great time with Mars, Mercury. Just kind of like, if I'm not getting the result I want, what could I change? And maybe to think, what's the sort of scariest thing I can do, or the most intimidating thing for myself that I could do to, I don't want to say push a change along, but allow for a change to flow into your life, and kind of say, okay, well, this thing I'm doing could be inhibiting it from coming forward. So I'm going to take the courage to move that aside in me, if it's an idea or an attitude or an action or something, So that would be a good way to work with that tension. But just in general, like, cut people some slack those mid 2 weeks of May, because people will be fairly jumpy. And again, the way it can come out when we're dealing with Mercury and Taurus and the Mars, it's like, it's this might makes right, and people are feeling vulnerable, but they're going to seem really bossy or, like just jerks when they're actually hurting or frightened or something. It's just a protective kind of way to do it when those planets are working on each other. So cut everyone some slack. Now, let's also talk about, with Uranus going into Taurus, what that can be about. So again, Uranus is a brand new way of dealing with something. Taurus, if you've been dealing with any food issues, it's a huge time to be looking at your body differently as the highest form of Taurus, like the sacred vessel. This body is this amazing, beautiful machine that's working for you, that wants to make you happy, that wants to move you from place to place and enjoy life and stuff. And how could you have some breakthrough ideas where you're treating your body differently through different foods, or sleeping more, or being able to be calmer under stress, because the best part of Taurus can be, okay, this is going on, let's assess what to do, and it's not radically reactive, so I could change the way I deal with stress, Also, even looking at foods in general, in the sense of maybe eating organic foods and putting more energy toward that movement to support organic farmers or something, could be a commitment you have to yourself. Taurus is also about money, so it can be new ways of looking at finances. That could be changing, instead of just doing random spending, like, what are my financial goals, which can be Taurus. Like, I want to take a vacation somewhere I've never gone. I want to go to Bali, or I want to make sure I have savings for retirement or for my child's college, and really get serious about saving for things that are important to me, And also being able to, if you're going to treat yourself to gifts and things, that they really mean something to you, instead of just grabbing at stuff. It's like, what's really valuable to me? If I'm going to spend, I want to spend it on something really high quality and something that really means something to me. So kind of changing the way you look at the finances. Some people, you could even get into tithing, which is Taurus, in the sense of you're planting that money in faith. Some people give 10% or a certain amount of their money to a spiritual cause, so it generates more prosperity for them. That could be something too. Looking at your different relationship commitments and how you might be really afraid to give all of yourself to a commitment of, if it's in relationship, or again, a goal you want to, or a commitment to yourself with meditation, spiritual growth, something that Uranus can show you where you're ambivalent about committing to something. And sacred sexuality is another theme of Taurus, and Uranus going into Taurus is being able to see breakthroughs in the areas of the beauty around sexuality, and opening up to a spiritual dimension on sexuality could also be something. As far as relationships go too, what's interesting is Taurus so much is about commitment, and Uranus, interestingly, is about individuality. So this idea how to become interdependent, like if you work with codependency issues, there can be breakthroughs around that area, you know, so that you can feel I'm fully me, I'm fully present to intimacy while not losing myself in it. I'm also not resisting somebody either. So that kind of balance can be struck. And again, this is a 7-year process with Uranus changing signs like that. But there could be things you start to think about and see how is that going to work. The other thing that once we get out of the Mercury Mars stuff, right, in the second, third weeks of May, Venus is going to go into the sign of Cancer on the 20th. And what's nice about that is then as the month closes out, Venus and Uranus will have a nice relationship there. It's called a sextile, a 60-degree angle. And that can be just like these, again, just like, oh, like you got through those 2 weeks and people are just going to have more kindness. Venus in Cancer is just much more sweet. And instead of like self-protective and my concept, you know, I'll be going on those first 2 weeks of, or the middle 2 weeks of the month, those first 2 weeks that Mercury and Uranus are doing their thing. And so when Venus gets involved, it's calmer, people are more respectful of each other. It's like everyone's taking a breath and feeling like what's possible, you know, what's really possible for me as, because especially when Venus is with Uranus, it's even more of that idea of I'm an individual in a thriving community, you know, and I'm an important part of this group. So it's it starts to blend that idea of the individual in the group, you know, whereas people are more defensive about, you know, getting up their ideas to the group or to you, or, you know, I'm still me, or, you know, those middle 2 weeks of the month. So we're gonna get through it, and again, just maybe learn to laugh at all the kookiness that might happen there mid-May. But it's gonna be really refreshing to have that change of Uranus sign. When those outer planets change, it's a big deal, and it's a huge shift for the planet, and you'll just feel really inspired. So just get through the bumpy time, we'll be all right. And again, be real kind to yourself about your own goals. So if you'd like a reading from me personally or have questions, you can contact me here on YouTube with a comment or something, or you could go to my website, www.alunamichaels.com, or you could call or text 248-583-1663. Okay, bye for now, and I will see you next month.